Hi everybody, it's HP5 Freak, one of your co-mods for Twilight Crafts, and as you know by now, a lot of the mods are doing a kind of get to know your mod thing, and Wednesday is going to be my day, but as I'll be in the car, I'm going to set this up to come up probably late Tuesday night, and it may actually be Wednesday by the time I do it, simply because I stay up late at night. So I was given 10 questions to answer by Jen. The first one being, what is my name and what are my crafts? I've already introduced myself. I'm Amber, and my main craft is crocheting, but I do tend to take on whatever I'm given. Sometimes I will do decoupage stuff. I'm planning on decoupaging a door at my new place when I move in a couple weeks, hopefully. And I do a little bit of knitting, do a little bit of kind of everything that I get into. I don't have a lot on my plate right now, mostly because I have too much crochet. So, yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. Let's see, in an average week, how many hours do I spend crocheting? And that's hard to say. It depends on how busy my schedule is, how tired I am, how lazy I'm feeling. And so sometimes it's as much as 10 minutes a day, straight up to 10, 12 hours. I've had days where I do nothing but sit on the couch and crochet, as some of my friends can attest to. My next question was, why do I craft? And it's kind of like asking an author why they write. It's simply, I must. I have a need to create, so therefore I do. When you first read Twilight and or saw the movie, which I read the books first, what was the first thing that you wanted to craft? Did you craft it? One of the first things I did for Twilight was somebody had commissioned me to do the Twilight cover, and I hadn't read the books at the time, so I was like kind of reluctant, but I said, okay, I'll do it. Let me get time to design it and everything. And then I read the first 3 books right away, shortly after that, and so I was more eager to do it. Breaking Dawn wasn't out yet. So that's what I did for my first craft, and I've made 3 since that, well, 3 altogether, 2 since the initial request. Which is your favorite Twilight book, and who's your favorite Twilight character? And Jen, you gave me a lot of hard questions, really. My favorite book is, it's hard to say. I like each book for its things. My favorite scene in all of the books is New Moon, the final scenes in Volterra and on. As for favorite book, it's probably a toss-up between Twilight and Breaking Dawn, simply because you got the beginning of the romance and then the happily ever after. So, as for my favorite character, that too is hard to say. It kind of depends on what my mood is. I certainly adore all of the Cullens, and I've grown to love Jacob, just not with Bella. Let's see here. But I do think Alice and I would be really good shopping buddies as long as she's paying the bill. Let's see. My next question is, what is your favorite Twilight craft made by you and made by another crafter? My favorite Twilight craft made by me has to be the Twilight cover blanket, just because it came out so well. And I'll put up a link to one of the ones that I've done somewhere in this video. But yeah, that was probably my favorite one. Simply, I'll get to it in a later question. But yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. And for me to pick a craft from somebody else, that's just too dangerous. I mean, we're a talented group, and every time I think I've got a favorite, somebody else puts up something else, and I'm like, oh no, that's my favorite. Don't make me choose. It's like asking me, you know, who's my favorite kid, and I don't even have kids. Let's see. My next question is, if you could craft with a Twilight character, who would it be, and what would you make? And I think, honestly, of the Cullens, probably the craftiest would be Alice and Esme. Alice and I would probably do something like scrapbooking or designing, something along those lines. Esme, I think, would be a knitter or crocheter. That is, when we're not building stuff, because I think I'd love to learn architecture from someone like Esme. I'm going to save that question for last. Let's see. What other fandoms do I craft for? Well, given that my name is HP5 Freak, yeah, I do some Harry Potter crafting still, and I initially got into crafting stuff with Lord of the Rings, and I've done a couple other things for fandoms that I may not necessarily be interested in, but I've done them for other friends. And let's see here. What am I working on right now? Actually, these questions are so old. I've actually finished what I was working on at the time. But what I'm working on right now is I'm actually working on a commission for something that's totally not fandom related. It's like a belated wedding gift for somebody. So that's what I'm working on right now, but I've also got some other things plotted because, as I said earlier on in my video, I'm getting ready to leave on vacation. And we're driving 12 hours to South Carolina. So I'm kind of like a 5-year-old in the car. I have to have a bag of diversions, so I'm taking a bunch of crafty stuff for me to work on, and maybe some crafty stuff for me to work on once I'm actually in South Carolina, just to have something to do on the off chance that I get bored. I don't actually see that happening, but experience tells me to take it with me. And so my last question that Open Jen gave me, and she's kind of in on this, so she knew about it. The question is, please tell us about the big gift that you gave to Stephanie Meyer and how she reacted. Well, some of you might know this, some of you might not, but last year, right after Breaking Dawn came out, Stephanie Meyer was coming to Chicago. And I was already headed to Chicago for the Harry Potter conference Terminus, and it was going to be like a day or two before. And so I talked to my mom, who was going with, and I talked to a friend that was going with, and we all agreed that we wanted to go see Stephanie Meyer and the whole concert series and everything. And hey, 1 of 4 chances, and she was going to be 3 hours from me. I got to go, right? So I took a chance, and I made one of the Twilight cover blankets. I thought, I'm probably not going to get to give this to her, but I might, and so just do it, you know. And if I didn't, I could give it to somebody else. I was sure there was somebody else I could find that would want it. So anybody who tried to get tickets to one of those knows there was a huge fiasco with the website crashing, but I got tickets, and you know, this was right after I had received a letter from J.K. Rowling earlier that summer when I had sent her something with the Crafty Witches for the Leaky Cauldron. So I was like, can do, I can do this. So we had a rather, pardon my French, but a hellish trip up to Chicago. I do only live 3 hours south, and it took a lot longer than 3 hours. There was a storm the night before, and it messed up the tracks and everything. So I missed most of the concert series, and actually we got there with like 3 minutes to spare, and it was me and Freaky Artie Chick, who's a member of this community. My mom, who had a ticket, had to miss the whole thing because she was at the train station with the luggage for all 3 of us. We raced there in a cab. We had somebody try to tell us we couldn't go in, and I was wearing my tiara. I had blonde hair and blue streaks. They weren't going to mess with me. So I got in line with everybody else, and I waited and waited, and I finally got to go up, and I'm shaking, you know, I'm shaking, and I wanted to give it to her, and they were so strict. You could only bring 1 book, and you had to have it folded a certain way, and you couldn't stay and chat, and you couldn't take pictures and everything. So I'm like, I'm not going to be able to give this to her, but I'm going to try. So right before we got up there, I had unfolded it slightly so that I could show it, and luckily the woman standing before her, it was a woman. If it had been a man, I'm not so sure they would have noticed, but this woman saw it, and she goes, oh, look at that, and Stephanie Meyer looked up, and she's like, oh my gosh, you know, and so she looked at it, she thought it was really pretty, and I asked her if I could give it to her as kind of a thank you for writing a series that I did like so much, and she actually took it, and which shocked me, and she said thank you very much, and she really seemed to enjoy it, and the whole time I'm just shaking like this, and I got my book back, and yeah, it was kind of a surreal moment, and I don't even have pictures because you couldn't take pictures of it, but yeah, Stephanie Meyer has one of my blankets, as does J.K. Rowling, so yeah, that was just a weird moment in my life, and so I think that's all for my questions. That's probably long enough of me rambling. I'm sure I'm going to look at this video and go, oh my God, what was I thinking? But yeah, that's what I have. I hope you enjoy it, and don't make fun of me later, okay? Well, you guys rock. Keep up the crafting. Bye.